Well, now the campaign to save the two Aussies on death row in Bali as the government and prominent Australians step up their pleas for mercy. Myuran Sukumaran and Andrew Chan are still awaiting news on their execution. Now, Adelaide lawyer Rachael has worked with a number of death row inmates in the US and earlier gave us an insight into what lies ahead for the Aussie pair. Well, Rachael, firstly, thank you so much for coming in. Look, you've spent time with people on death row in the United States. What has that taught you?
I'd have to say that the experience taught me above all was compassion, and the idea that the people that I met were there in many ways because of circumstances in their life that had led them there, either from being victims of abuse or poverty or their socioeconomic class. And in many ways, it was a surprise they hadn't got to death row earlier. And
did any of the people you work with end up being executed?
They did. They did. I had two of my clients there were executed. One was executed by the electric chair and another was executed by lethal injection.
Very distressing for you, I can imagine.
Very distressing to be at home knowing the exact time when a person I'd got to know very well was going to be executed, and wondering the pain they would feel and what their families would lose.
And this is obviously the pain being felt at the moment by the two Aussies on death row in Bali 9. What do you make of what's ahead of them?
Well, from the reports it would seem there's not a lot of hope for them. I still believe that we should continue to agitate for their sentences to be commuted to a term of imprisonment rather than execution. And there are people across the country now all sending their thoughts and well wishes across to those people.
And I know the legal profession is one such group. They held a vigil this afternoon, you were there. But do you find that in general the public is quite sympathetic?
I've definitely noticed that the public has been sympathetic to their plight. I think that in many ways Australians do not have a lot to do with the death penalty because we don't have it here, so we're not forced to think about it and debate it and consider what it means for us. But now we have two people who are just like us from Australia, fellow nationals, and I think that means people can relate to that and relate to the fact that these people have families and interests and that they're at risk now of losing their lives.
And one person who's developed quite a relationship with Sukumaran is local entrepreneur Shane Yee. Now, today he spoke about their plight to teens involved in the Ice Factor program. How did the kids respond?
I understand that the kids were very curious about what this meant and why it was that another country was killing two Australians. In my experience, the children in general find it hard to comprehend that sort of vengeance, and particularly by adults, and something that is sanctioned by a government. So there's a lot of disbelief and confusion among the youths and children.
On the flip side though, there'll be people who say that the victims of drugs die as well, so why not those who traffic and profit from it? How do you answer that?
I can only answer that with the fact that these two people in Bali have brothers, sons and friends of people, and I ask those people who wish that they would die to consider what if it was their son. That is my only way I can think to respond to that. What if it was your son?
Do you think this case will have a positive effect on attitudes of to the death penalty?
I think it definitely will. The fact that it's brought home that the death penalty is not an issue which is foreign to Australians, it doesn't affect us, it actually does. We have Australians facing the death penalty around the world, and now I think in many ways Australians can relate to that and better understand what it means.
Yeah, well, we appreciate your insight. Thank you so much for coming in, Rachael.
No worries.